Cloud connecting. Okay, we're recording now. Good morning to anyone who's listening to this on later on. And I would like to do a different beginning here because we need differences anyway. But this is the week of Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is really different for us because, as I was saying, it's the family holiday without the family. The big gathering without the big gather, and really different. But one of my teachers asked the question of everyone who came to the class, what during this weird time has brought light into your life? What has made your life more pleasant, happier? And anyone who wants to contribute and share that with us, I would be most grateful to hear. And if you don't have a video input, you can do it through chat, and I will share your chat answer to this. And it doesn't have to be fancy. The example I'm giving is one person in this other class answered that the apple tree next door had brought light into her life. She'd watch it all through the change of the seasons, go through its normal sequence of budding and bearing apples and then losing its leaves, and watched it through the rain and the sun, and it just brought her comfort. So I will go first. And of course, the obvious answer is that you all have brought me light, and you have. But I have to say that one of the things in my life that has been most rewarding recently is a small group of neighbors who I never knew before this experience, who own dogs and happen to go down to the schoolyard in the evenings and let our dogs play together. And we stand in a socially distanced circle while the dogs make a huge fuss and just speak to each other every day. And that has been a great blessing to, I mean, I don't want these big fancy words, just it's brought light. It brought light into my life. So anyone else who wants to share, please feel free to do so.
I would just say being outside. And I just take advantage of all the time that I can, because I live out in the country and so I don't have close neighbors. But that brings light into my life, to get outside and just enjoy my garden and the trees and the flowers, everything outside.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you.
Well, I have something I've discovered about my view fairly recently, just this summer. I have a back garden with a large window there. I have an old garden fence, which is just long bamboo poles that are fairly thin. And I looked out one day and saw the birds, doing the walking on the kind of skipping on the bamboo, and the squirrels swirling around, and squirrels in and out up the tree. And it was such a lovely performance of life and activity in this other world that I had not visited. And so I'm a frequent visitor now.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Diane says more walking and biking, getting to know the neighbors, and reading books, bringing that into her life has been a comfort and a sustenance for her. Anybody else like to share? Please feel free to or not to.
I've enjoyed leisurely mornings. I feed the birds. I throw bird seed on the deck every morning. And I really enjoy watching the birds every morning and just having time to not rush. And of course,
yes,
so much time for wonderful books. That too.
Thank you.
I want to insert adding time for less rushing and paying attention to that has been a huge thing for me too. This is Diane.
Hi, Diane. Thank you. The quiet and the luxury of time. Thank you. Sandy, it looked like you had something perhaps. Oh, Sandy, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
I saw a really touching documentary on, I think it was on Netflix, and it's called My Octopus Teacher.
Oh, right.
Have you seen it? It was so good. It made me feel so, I never knew anything about octopuses before, but it was a wonderful documentary.
It was.
It made me cry.
I watched it twice.
Oh,
Lovely. Yeah. And so there's a lot of, I hear a lot of people talking about connecting to the natural world and animals in different ways. All right. Anybody else? I really appreciate you sharing. I appreciate this also because of the sense of community, which is something that's harder to keep up over Zoom than it is when we see each other. But the sense of community is still here. And I think it's really, really important that we can maintain this and value it.
yes.
And so let's come to our mats and let's start on our backs today on the mat and begin with breathing together, which is something that human beings do and something we start to pay attention to as we come to yoga. So I am going to do this, and everybody will be quiet now. I will mute you all as we begin. Make yourself comfortable on your back and begin to feel that sense of your body surrendering to the floor. Allow your body to just melt a little bit into the floor and connect to that earth beneath you and that feeling of flatness, the flatness of your back and your pelvis and your muscles releasing down to the floor, letting go, softening. And if you want to have your legs long, you may do so, or you can tent them, bend your knees up to the ceiling with your feet flat on the floor and let your knees relax towards each other and feel that flatness across your pelvis. And just tune into your breath for a moment and let that breath come in fully. Let's do 6 counts in. And you can follow my counts, or if that feels stressful, follow your own count. So breathing in 1, belly, ribs, all the way up to the top of the chest. And then release from the shoulders and the collarbone. Ribs condense, draw towards each other, and the belly flattens to the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With the next 6 counts, really come all the way to the top and breathe in just that little tiny extra bit to expand the lungs, and then release down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a tiny puff out. On your own counts, continue. Rich, full, deep, nourishing breath. Way up to the top and then releasing it all completely. We'll talk a lot about breath today. Keep this going for, let's say, 3 more rounds on your own. 3 more deep rounds of filling your lungs all the way to the top and then pulling in just a few more molecules to let every little passage of your lungs expand and be as strong and large as possible before you release it completely. One more long, long breath. One more long, long breath. And then release again. Now, if it's at all possible for you, take those legs long and give your feet a wiggle here if you've just come to the long legs, and acknowledge the other parts of your body that now are on the floor. And let's do 4 more breaths. And this time, as you breathe in, take the arms up overhead and flex the feet. Flex the feet, lift the arms. And with the exhale, release the arms down and relax the feet. 3 more like that. Flex the feet, let the breath lift the arms way up overhead. Check in with your shoulders as this happens. Check in with the back of your legs as they light up. Just from that flex foot, press your legs into the ground as well as flexing your feet now. Like press down into the ground. Really feel the back of your legs light up. Really feel that. And then let's keep the long body on that last in-breath. You can release your breath, but reach up overhead and reach your legs long through the heels, stretching the whole back of your body. Feel the back of the body touching the floor, and feel your attention there as you breathe during this stretch. And what happens is that air comes into your lungs, and how does that affect what touches the ground? And stretch your fingers wide and open like sea stars. Then bring it all into the body and bring those knees towards your abdomen and pull them towards your belly. And feel as you rock back and forth gently across the back of your hips waking up, and that nice motion starting crosswise on your spine. And moving the legs forward and back, the knees forward and back, away from your body and to your body will kind of increase that action of back and forth by taking it farther down the spine. And then put the feet on the floor and take the elbows in your hands to form a rectangle and rock back and forth across the shoulders. Your hips will probably rise depending on how much action you want to put into this part of your movement right now. Perhaps you want to go slow and small. That's just fine. Waking up the back of the top of your back way up by your shoulders, the back of your shoulders, see what's going on. And I'm the one who's always telling you to try interlacing your hands here, lifting your chest, your head gently, activating those abs a little bit, but mostly allowing you to access the mid back as you go back and forth across the back with your head and shoulders lifted, if that's okay for you today, because that is a place for some of us, especially those with a slight kyphosis or a little bit of a humpback or hunchback like I have, that postural problem. That area up at the top of your back can be very overstretched and tender. So coming back and forth across it like this is a nice, gentle way to give it some massage and stop it from cramping as we get farther along in this work. Now settle again on the ground with the feet down and the arms at the sides. And let's start our pelvic tilt this today with just an inhale. Just an inhale, feeling the belly rise. Don't exaggerate anything, just what happens naturally. And with the exhale, just what happens naturally on the exhale. How much ab work comes to you with your natural inhale and exhale. And observe that one more time. What happens to your back with your natural inhale and exhale? Does your back move at all? Does your belly will move, but how much does your musculature participate in that? And now begin to exaggerate it. Begin to make that motion bigger by tilting the pelvis and letting the lumbar curve, the low back curve, get a little bigger with the inhale, the belly rise, and get a little smaller as you exhale and press down into the floor with your belly muscles. Let those core muscles really start to participate in this gentle rocking of the spine, gentle rocking in the low spine. And here's a place to observe again, what's going on with your low back today? How is it? Is it strong and healthy? Does it feel ready to get some heat and motion going? Is it tender? Is it stiff? What's going on there? And you can adjust your motions and your class to serve yourself here by knowing what's going on with that lower back. And let's keep adding to this by pressing into the ground with the inhale and lifting the hips slightly up off the ground. And then with the exhale, rolling down through that spine, getting a nice liquid undulation going through the spine. And as you begin to do this, you will immediately feel from the pressing motion of your feet and the lifting of your hips, the back of the legs, the hamstrings and the glutes participating. And you can make that even more active by, when you lift, keep the feet in place, but isometrically pull them towards you to really light that up. If that doesn't work for you, visualize it a different way. Visualize it by pushing the knees away from you towards the wall that you would be looking at if you lifted your head, the wall that's farthest away from you usually. And then roll down through the spine and see what happens here. Lots of motion, lots of action going on in the hips and the legs, anything talking to you, anything giving you feedback. And the last two times we do this, let's add the overhead arms, which we've already warmed up a little bit, and roll them down. Yes. Lift them up and roll them down. And then come all the way to the floor. Let's do one more full stretch. And this time, after you do a nice long stretch, take your right hand about your left wrist, move the arms and legs on the floor, still laying flat on the floor. Form a gentle bracket shape with your body by moving both the arms and the legs. I'm moving to the right if you're following me. And feel that whole left side of your body opening up into a C shape, and let your breath fan into those open ribs. That left lung is open. Really feel it up, fill it up and let it go. Before you release that wrist, grab the other wrist, which for me was the right wrist, and take everything over to the left and fill that side of the body with that in-breath. Gentle side stretch, beginning to explore the sides of your body. What's going on in the sides? Anything speaking to you? A little different motion in the shoulder, something may arise here. And if everything is still feeling open and good, that's wonderful. Let's come back to feet on the floor and the knees straight up now. Begin by placing the hands with the fingers wide open on the base of the thighs up by your hip joint, pressing away at the same time you engage your belly and press those thighs back into your hands, making this core lock position. And if you like, you can also take your feet up to a tabletop position with the knees bent at a right angle and press away into the knees with the knees pressing back to have the core lock with a little more action. And if you feel that you can't keep your belly pressing your back into the floor with the legs raised, then do it with your feet on the floor. That's always a good measure for the ab work. If you want to take the next step, can you keep relax your feet down, and can you keep that belly pressing the back down into the floor? So with that caveat, let's begin doing some core work. And I'm going to take my hands that are locked and take them behind my head. Remember, when we're doing this, it's to cradle and protect the neck. We're not using the arms to lift. The elbows can stay out to the sides. It's to give your head someplace to rest, because the core is going to be doing the lifting. So let's start by just lifting straight up and relaxing down. Straight up and relaxing down. And the next time we'll go to the left, twist back to the center, and relax down. Let's lift straight up, twist to the right, center, and down. And you can continue exactly with this work. Straight up, twist left, center, down. Or you can take the next step, this one is to the right and down, by taking the knees up to the tabletop position. And again, if you're coming to tabletop, make sure that you can keep that core locking down and not have a big lumbar curve popping up. Now, the last step is to add the extended leg all the way to yoga bicycle. And you turn towards the knee, which is not extending. Alternating sides. Now, this can also be done with the one leg staying on the floor. So you have a lot of choices here. And whenever you've come to enough ab work, that's your stopping point, or at least your resting point, to take a break. I'm going to do 8 more of the yoga bikes. Got to get my stomach muscles prepared for the very small Thanksgiving of COVID year. Still takes a lot of work. And then come to the ground and resist bringing your knees in for a moment. After an ab work, we always have this sense you want to bring your knees into the center, but this time let's press through the ground and lift the belly back up to a gentle bridge pose, pressing the knees away, lifting up through the hips, and check your ribs. And if your ribs are popping up, relax those ribs down to feel that long line from your knees all the way down to your shoulders, without those ribs protruding. And let's breathe 2 big breaths here, really feeling your feet and your legs working into the floor. Then take your arms up to the ceiling, bend your elbows, take your hands straight up to the ceiling. And with the back of your arms still pressing down, lift the heels and roll them 1 vertebrae at a time, relaxing the spine to the floor. Nice. Then let your legs go long and bring the right leg in towards your belly. And then out to the side, leaving that hip, the left hip on the ground. And take a moment to explore that hip joint on the right. You can wiggle the knee a little bit, loosen it up, or let it relax loosely. And I think that's what I'm trying to ask you to do. Let that joint relax and see how much play is in there today. See how it feels. And bring that knee in, and let's bring the left knee into the body with the right foot reaching far away. Really pull that knee up towards the chest. If you find a cramp in your hip as you do this, sometimes it helps to take it out a little bit to the side. So rather than coming straight into your body, it's sort of coming alongside the ribs. And then let it fall out to the side. Explore what happens when you relax that joint open to the side, keeping the right hip down. And I learned a new exercise for this. I'm not going to give it to you today, but maybe next week we'll get into that. I've been doing a little course, and so I've got some new stuff for you. And bring it in and bring it down. Now we're going to come to hands and knees, but first just take the right foot up and let's do some ankle circles. Straight, doesn't have to be straight. This isn't so much a stretch for your hamstring, although you can make it into a hamstring stretch at the same time by encouraging that knee towards you. That's optional, yogi's choice. Roll the foot both ways and open and close those toes, point and flex the foot. It's really being aware of all that ankle can do. And then switch to the other side and take the left foot up, same routine. You can give yourself a little bit of a hamstring stretch here too, if you wish, but mostly we're thinking about that foot and that ankle. And those all those muscles around the sides of our ankles and running up to the knees, and those muscles that we use for balancing, some of those are connected to the feet. And as you keep this ankle joint pliant and strong, we are contributing greatly to our balance. Came up in the class that I'm taking, a question about people's feet. Let's roll up and get yourself ready, coming to your hands and knees. A question came up about feet, and we all know that feet take a lot of abuse over a lifetime, and a lot of stuff is going on for those feet, and that certain people's feet don't bend in certain directions anymore, which I'm well aware of. So if you are having trouble with your feet, it is perfectly legitimate in the house, in your own home, to do your yoga wearing a pair of shoes, a pair of athletic shoes. You want a nice shoe that gives your toes room to open up, has a nice grippy sole, and is comfortable. That's what you're looking for. But if you find that your balance is continually an issue or your feet are bothering you, please feel free to experiment with that. Try having your shoes on. You can always, brush the soles off or even wash them off if you're worried about them being dirty on your mat. But it's really a good tip, and I wanted to make sure to pass that on to you. At the same time, I have another tip right here for tender knees, because we always say, come to the blanket for your tender knees. But for some people, it's not enough. But one thing you can try is having your kneecap hang off the blanket a little bit. So come all the way to the front of your folded ankle. And if your knees are terribly sensitive, sometimes you can put your weight onto your shins and your feet behind you and your hands and lift up and take the weight entirely off the kneecap. So that's another new idea to spare these parts of the body that are getting a little worn out or a little tired or beat up just from everything. So here, let's again come to a cat-cow. But the first one I want you to do, just release the belly with your breath. No special bending of the spine. And then as you exhale, feel the belly engage. And just as we did on the ground, be very aware of how much your muscles automatically participate in your breath. Just tune into your core and see how much it's doing with the breath. There's no right or wrong, it's just information gathering. And then begin to make a bigger cat-cow. And I would offer you the variation we've been doing, which I particularly like. Instead of a big bend in the back, traditionally we do the exhale and we find this large shape of the Halloween cat, and then the inhale, sorry, and pardon me, that is the exhale. And the inhale, we relax down into the cow shape, the old gray cow in the field. But that you can also, on the inhale, keep the back more stable, bend the elbows a little bit, and pull the chest through with your inhale, elongating the back. And then with the exhale, lean back towards your child's pose. Inhale, bend the elbows and pull through the chest, leaning forward, long back of the neck, chest reaching through the shoulders. And exhale, relaxing back towards child's pose. I know child's pose is not completely available to everybody. And that may be one reason you prefer the traditional cat-cow. If you like the cat-cow we usually do, that's just fine. You can do it either way. Let's do 3 more, whichever variation you're choosing. And occasionally people will find with this variation that they breathe in the opposite direction, that they exhale as they're pulling forward and inhale as they reach back. There's nothing wrong when you find yourself reversing a breath in a direction from yoga. If you become aware of it, you can just try what the teacher said. And if the other way is completely natural and right to you, do what feels right. Let's reach the right leg back with the toes bent under and really push out through the heel, feeling a long back of the leg. Stretching especially the calf. Those of you who have been walking and biking will really find that calf muscle builds up quickly. It becomes very strong, and it's nice to have a release through there. Then lift the leg up. Let's start by bending the knee and pressing up 10 times to the ceiling through there, getting really into the back of the leg. In fact, let's make that 5 and then straighten the leg and do 5 more with the straight leg. Then we're going to add one more piece of work here by lifting the leg a little bit past parallel to the ground, whatever that is for you. Could be just a little tiny bit, might be a little bit more, whatever happens in your body. Lift it up and then reach it out, keeping the flex of the foot to the side. That will be a pretty small motion for most of us. And back to center and up and to the side. You really feel something happening in there. Not a direction we usually go. We'll do that twice more. And then take it back and down. And let's do a release through the hips here. Knees are back to the ground. Draw some hip circles, both directions. Just letting that open up. Letting go of any tension that work creates. Take a moment here before we come to the other side and release your hands. You can shake your wrists out, take them together, draw. I don't know how we explain this motion. Back of the hands together, then flip them up. Or you can do a little bit of the ocean motion of the ocean. Any release that helps you let those wrists relax. And then back to hands and knees and start on the other side. Left foot goes back with toes turned under, checking into that calf and letting it release long. As we work, remember, if you have tender wrists, you can always roll up your mat and place the heels of your hands on the mat with the front of the hand with the fingers off the mat. Or you can come to your fists or your forearms if the wrists are really bothering you. Let's take the leg out. We're going to do 5 little lifts with the leg bent and 5 with it straight. Waking up the back of the leg even more, getting that back of the leg participating in the world here. And then lift up the leg and take it out to the side. And lift up the leg and take it up to the side. If you find big cramps in this motion, make it smaller. You will find some stretch and unusual activity in here, but it should not be painful. One more time. And then release that one down. Hands out in front, and let's come to a modified plank, the half plank. And from the half plank, let's do those hip circles. And from here, we're going to reach that right foot back again and then roll onto that foot. Let the right foot come so its sole is on the ground, and you can let the left knee, the calf pivot out as a little bit of like a kickstand on a bicycle, and lift your arm and come to a side plank variation. If you have room in your body today, you can try extending the arm over the ear. Gives you more of a stretch. It can be hard on the shoulder, so take your lead from your body. And of course, you can experiment with lifting that long leg and see if you can balance. And let's breathe here for a minute. This is the variation on half moon. Half moon, you would be standing with that kneeling leg, and that's really the only difference. And then release down and come to the other side. You can just flip to the other side. I'm going to change my stance so that you can still see me. Take the left leg out and then rotate so the left foot is flat on the floor, and peel yourself open to begin this. And then you can experiment with the shoulder and the arm. And then the balance. Wherever you are, if you have your foot on the floor like this, really feel that stretch all the way from the edge of that foot through the fingertips, and hold that stretch. Really feel it even if you're lifting up into a balanced position. Keep the breath going in all these balances. Breath keeps moving. If it knocks you off, makes you unsteady, that's okay. That's just the way it is. Those are the processes of life. And then release that foot to the ground. And let's all come to standing. You can take your own path and fold the blanket and put it by, because we're going to be coming to a low lunge and you'll probably want it then. Find yourself all the way up and standing. I see it's time to adjust my elaborate camera system. Call in all the techs and the big equipment and get it set up so you can see me standing. All right. That's pretty good. You can see both my head and my feet. Nice job, guys. Thank you. So let's start with standing and just shake it out a little bit. Wiggle it out, let it go. Nobody's watching. Do the shimmy, Get it going. Come on, guys. I know you can do this. Okay, relax. And the hips, the hula hips. Breathe out. Sigh it out. Yeah, okay. And feet together. Find your mountain pose. Find mountain. Rock back and forth on your feet and put your hands, rock back and forth. Let me be more specific, from toes to heels on your feet. Put your hands on your sides. And as you challenge your balance, rock far enough so it's making you unsteady a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And feel how your abs participate in saving you. How it's those abs that just as you lose your balance will click into use and keep you from falling. So again, as we talk about balance and stability, which is really important for us, it's also the abs. So I was mentioning all these muscles that run up along the insides of your legs, connecting your feet and your knees and your hips. And also these abs, those are part of your balance system. So that's one reason we work so hard to keep them safe and strong. So let's take our mountain pose and take it to the end of the mat and find a nice focal point, just because we're balancing, even standing on our feet. Pick up the shoulders and let the shoulder blades slide down your back. Let's pinch those shoulder blades together and then relax them forward. Pinch them together and relax with an exhale. One more time. Inhale and take those shoulder blades together on the back. And then relax without the pinching, with the shoulder blades still flat on the back. Check your alignment. Hips over the knees, shoulders back over the hips, and then lining up the ears back over the shoulders as much as possible. Lifting up through the sternum and through the center of the top of the head. Lift the arms all the way to the sky and gather all that's hidden there to bring to your heart. We're coming to a forward bend. If you are not inverting for a good reason, which you know, then you're going to stay in a flat forward bend. You can relax your knees or straighten the knees, whichever works for you. And if you have more to give with relaxed knees, starting with bent knees, let's do a whole full forward bend and relax the head down. You can even take hold of your elbows with your hands and come to ragdoll. And feel your sitting bones, the top back of your hips reaching up to the sky, way up to the sky. And it's as if you could relax your torso onto your thighs and let your head dangle. And this is an inversion, so you will feel the blood rushing to your head here. And that is okay. And put those hands on the floor and step back. Either come to downward dog with your knees bent, or hands and knees if that's better for you. So we have a downward dog position here. Keep your knees bent at the beginning here and really use that so you can push into your hands. Roll those shoulders open off the back and press the sitting bones up to the sky. Let your head relax. One more breath here. And then we're going to come to hands and knees briefly, and then either into, let's all come to half plank here. Half plank and lower to the ground. You can lower knees, chest, chin, or press the elbows back into the top half of the beginning of a push-up, the let down part of a push-up, and then come to the floor. So we're on the floor. Reorient to gravity here. Take a breath. Let's all roll our right ear to the ground so you have a little bit of a neck stretch. And look up what's going on in that direction. Then the hands come under the shoulders, and we'll do a cobra push-up by taking the shoulders blades up and back, and then lifting the head and chest. And when you're there, slide your hands and elbows forward to convert that into Sphinx. So we've landed in Sphinx pose. Make sure that your legs are alive, pressing into the ground. The front of the feet are long on the ground with the toes wide and pressing down. You want to roll your legs a little interiorly to the interior, as if you could bring the inseams of your jeans towards each other. And the belly is lifting. The belly is alive and lifting. Now let's check the back of the head again. Now, first of all, if you're uncomfortable here, if this is too much, remember you can move your arms forward and lessen the angle of this bend to find a level appropriate for your body today. You don't want to overdo these gentle back bends. When you find that position that you feel stable and comfortable in, then move those shoulder blades back and lift your heart through forward. And instead of looking up, look forward about a foot or 2 feet in front of you and feel the back. Let your chin press towards your chest a little bit and feel the back of your neck long. Now make sure you still have those legs working into the ground and the belly lifting. We'll hold this for just 2 more breaths if it's okay for you. And breathe. Really feel the breath move through your body as you're opening your heart forward. Then let the arms come long and fold the arms. Rest your head on the folded arms and rock back and forth across your hip bones. Send your breath into that sacral area. Feel it balloon up as you breathe into the low back. And let's take those hands under our shoulders again. Press back to half plank. And then we're going to come up either to hands and knees or child's pose, if that would feel good to you right now, or maybe into down dog, if that feels good. Wherever you feel like you can find the rest. Now, for some people, a lot of people, the down dog position isn't restful, but if you do a few thousand, it becomes familiar and a nice place to be. It's always possible here, if resting in down dog isn't possible, to move into down dog for a couple of breaths and then relax down to hands and knees again. Or you can work in hands and knees, stabilizing the shoulder blades on the back, or take a rest in child's pose. Wherever you are, 2 more breaths. And then if you are in child's pose, rise to join us in hands and knees. You're in hands and knees, push up so you can walk forward to the front of the mat and come again to that flat back forward position. And from there, relax all the way forward. If it's appropriate for you to do this little type of inversion, and find your forward fold. This time experiment with how much you can straighten your knees. It might be all the way, it might be none of the way. Just see what happens when you work towards stretched knees. How does that feel? And with a flat back or rolling through, come all the way up. As you come up, really grasp the belly muscles in, and that will help to keep the blood from rushing to your feet. Reach back to the sky, hands to the heart, and finish. That was a very slow sun salute, a very extended sun salute. We did one, and that was a good one. So hands on the hips. Again, rock back and forward on your feet, feeling that belly engaged to save you as you move forward and back. And then land in a nice stable position, pressing through the ground and lifting up with the head and the sternum so you can swing the left leg back, that's the one I have back, into warrior one. And make sure you have your blanket handy here. Let's come all the way to warrior one with the, well, first take your hands onto your back and feel that long release of your pelvis. And if you want to bring your hands around front, as if you can bring those 2 pointy Aziz bones together, that helps too. Then lift the belly and the arms to come all the way to warrior one. Finding a drishti. Let's stay here for 3 full breaths. Keeping those legs working in towards each other, both from the front of the mat to the back of the mat and across the mat, making that really strong foundation pose for the strength of the warrior pose. If you begin to lose your breath, the first thing to do is take your hands to the hips. The heart works harder with the arms lifted. So the first way to make this less strenuous is hands to the hips. And then if you need to, you come further out of the pose. And then let's all bring the hands to the hips. Rotate that back leg so that the toes turn under and the heel lifts. And we're coming to the ground here. So you might want to place your blankie, and I forgot to have you bring your blocks forward. But if you have a block or 2 blocks, you can place your blocks in the front as well. So we've come to the Anjali Asana, although you have your hands on your hips. Let's see if I can become stable here. All right, there we go. And we're lowering to the low lunge. So you have your blocks there. If you want to hang on to your blocks, you can reach down to the floor. Or if your balance is good, you can either place your hands on your hips or your front thigh and just lower to the ground. However you get down there is fine. We'll take a moment and a breath so everybody can join us here in the low lunge. So find your balance in low lunge. Let your hips relax slightly forward. And then add the arms in this position. And as you're here, see if you can feel that stretch along the front of the leg that's reaching long back. And if you can't, adjust by really grabbing hold of your abdominal muscles and lengthening that back of your pelvis. And that often will allow, that small adjustment will allow the stretch to dial into that stretch. We're going to do a little bit of a flow here. Let's start from this position with the Superman cape. Arms behind us, super person cape, sorry. And then with an exhale, come forward and bring your wings around yourself. And then open the arms and the wings, the cape, as you bring your weight to the front foot again. Push the weight back and relax forward. Now I'm doing this with inhale and exhale. You're welcome to slow this down and take a full breath in each position. Sometimes working on the half breath is just too fast for how we feel. And then you can take a full breath in each pose, or even 2 breaths if that works better for you. And as you move through this, see which pose is the one you want to hold for 2 breaths. And it might be the one that's most comfortable, or it might be the one that's most challenging. Ask your intuition where you should be for the next 2 breaths and land in that variation of the pose. And breathe. And then return hands to that front thigh for stability. Take the weight onto the back knee. Remember those variations we were talking about if your knees get sore standing on your knees. And we're going to use your block or blocks so that you can straighten that front leg. Straighten that front leg in front of you. Weight's on the back leg. And we're coming into the Hanuman variation, which means you want to find a nice long straight back all the way from your tail through the top of your head, and then lean forward, encouraging the torso towards the leg, but only as much as you can keep that extension through your back and keep the front foot really strongly flexed. This front foot in front of you. That engages lots of these little muscles we were talking about in terms of balancing and stability. So that as you do this work, you're less likely to overextend that leg, hyperextend it. And if you know you're a hyperextender, which means you kind of can engage that leg so strongly it goes backwards, put a little micro bend in your knee. Then relax forward and see if you can get a nice stretch through the hamstring muscle in the front of that leg. And just keep the breath working as you relax into the stretch. For me, it's not so much a down motion as a pulling of my spine, starting with my head forward towards the wall in front of me, rather than towards the floor of my leg. And as I extend through the spine, I can find a little bit of room and I begin to really feel a good stretch. It can be so different with different people's anatomy. So you can experiment gently with adjustments to find a way to access that stretch in the fat part of your hamstring's belly. And to come out, you lift out and take the weight forward onto the front leg. And we're going to come to standing, so you can use your blocks again, or you can use your thigh, weight onto the front leg or hands on the ground, lift the back leg, straighten the back leg, and come forward. And again, holding the belly strong, lift up to standing, and give yourself a moment in standing here with the feet on the floor, all four corners of the feet. Really feel that strength. You can try lifting your toes, widening your toes and flattening them out. I'm going to switch sides again, mostly for the visual. It will be, you don't necessarily have to do this. We'll come to the front of the mat and line ourselves up. Lift the arms with an in-breath. We'll do 3 big breaths before we begin. Down to the center. All the way up and through the center line of the body. Breathe up and bring it through the heart center. Hands on hips and stepping the right foot back. We started with the left foot. So make sure you're on the opposite side that we've done before. We'll start by coming to warrior 1 with the back foot flat on the floor and toes reaching, angling towards the front. And begin to find again that stability of the legs working towards each other, isometrically pulling towards each other to give you that very strong base. You can check the position of your pelvis with your hands and then lift the arms to find warrior 1. Shoulders are relaxed on the back. You can relax your face. The legs and the belly are working. The arms are lifting, but that's the work they're doing. There's really nothing beyond that. Neck is long. And the balance stays with us if we're fortunate, even though the breath is deep and even. The breath feeds the pose. Then you might want to take your hands back to your waist as you rotate the toes on this back foot and begin to come down to low lunge again. And you can position yourself any way that you feel stable and safe doing this. And when you come down to that lunge, let your weight come forward, keeping that long lower back and lifted belly, and lift the arms. Feel that beautiful curve of this pose. This is the low variation of crescent pose, and the body forms a crescent moon. And then let's do that same variation with the open arms to the back. And with an exhale, let the weight come towards the knee in the back, and the arms wrap the body. And in-breath comes back to the open-hearted power pose. And then into the safety of your own embrace. And as you work through these 2 variations, see which one you want to take and hold on this side. Which one feels better here? Which one feels like the right place to be for 3 breaths. And when you know that or have made a choice, come to that pose and we'll hold it for 3 breaths. And from there, we will come upright and work our way into Hanuman on this side. I'm going to do a little adjusting here. The blocks, if you have a block, that's always really stabilizing. Just straighten that front leg. And when I talk about hyperextension, I don't hyperextend, but some people can take their leg from straight to a bowing position. Their knee moves back so far, and this is a matter of anatomy as well as how you've used your legs in your life, that it actually forms a slight bow. And we want to avoid that. It really puts a lot of pressure on the knees. Most of us don't have that problem. And if you do, you're probably aware of it. But just in case, give yourself a check. And all you have to do is be conscious of it and bend the leg just a little tiny bit and really engage the front thigh. You'll find that you can work without that hyperextension. And then with a long, strong back, we're going to begin to move forward here. And perhaps it's just a right angle with the back, or perhaps you have more room to relax forward. Make sure you keep those hips in line. That's another helpful tip on the forward fold like this. And keep your breath moving through your body. And let's use an inhale to bring ourselves up. Take a moment on your hands and knee. You're in this position to let your head get used to it. And we're coming all the way to standing. So again, engage the belly. I like to rock forward and put my weight on that front knee. And that helps me to step forward and come all the way to standing. Let's come to the wall. And Brianna, I have my friend here today, so she gets to find herself a place where she can use a wall. And any support will work. It could be a chair, a table, bed, anything that makes you feel like you have something to grab onto today. And I thought about this today. I couldn't decide which pose we were going to do. And I think what I'd like to do is King Dancer. We've worked on it a few times, and it has a lot of variations. And the first one begins with reaching back to grab the foot or the pant leg. And this is where the belt helps. If your foot is very far from your hand, as sometimes happens, you can reach the belt around your top of your foot and use it with your hand to bring it up. We're working at the beginning just to line up the thighs while you're holding the foot. That's all you need to do. Get these 2 thighs parallel and stand up straight. And then you can start playing with your balance. The traditional pose is to take the arm up high. And if you have more room, what you're going to work towards is bringing that heel in towards your bum, really getting a good stretch through the hamstrings. Send your breath into that sensation. And then if you want to keep playing, if you are feeling adventurous and your balance is with you today, you can work with kicking. Start with just kicking that foot back. Just kick it back. Try and keep the hips very much in line. And some people can kick their foot so far up and back that their body begins to tip forward. You don't need to do that on purpose. It will just happen. But wherever you are, you just enjoy it and play with it. I'm going to stay low today for all my friends who are listening. And then release the foot. Bring both arms up and come through the center. Nice. All right. Take a moment to wiggle and reorient and let the guide pass. And then we'll come to the other side. So pour your weight into the foot. Make the leg strong that's closest to your support. And let the other leg be loose. Take a deep breath and then reach back with whatever aid you need. The pants are always a big help if you just can grab the pants to grab that foot and find this long stretch along the hamstrings. It should feel good. Take it to a place where you go, oh yeah, I need that. Yes, yes, yes. Not to the point where you go, point where you're saying, wow, that's so good. And the knee can be reaching down. That's a visualization that helps me. You can take that other arm up. This pose right here is King Dancer. You don't have to do anything else. There are embellishments, and if you choose to keep going, you start by kicking that back leg up. And whatever happens from there. But keep your breath going. Keep your drishti, your focal point. And see if you can have a sense of play and enjoyment here. Then let's all come upright together. And if you can come down with some control and dignity, it feels really good. And then we'll wiggle a little bit again. Let's come all the way to the floor. So come on down and have your blanket here. Take your time. Now, if you are a person who finds coming to a seat on the floor really difficult, I suggest you either take your time and don't worry about it. If you don't exactly keep up with the pose, that's not a big deal. Or you can use a chair. You can sit on a chair for this one. And I'll show it both ways. We're coming to Jani Shirshasana, which is a forward bend with one leg. So for floor people, you're going to bend. I'm starting with stretching my right leg. And I'm sitting up on a blanket. I've got the blanket under my bum, just kind of under the edge of my bum. And that helps me keep my pelvis lifted up, and I'm standing up with a nice tall back. And this leg doesn't have to come right up towards your groin. It can be wherever is comfortable. This leg, the stretching leg, is really reaching long through the heel, and the leg is pressing down into the ground, which keeps your hamstring strong and will help from overextending the hamstring. And then lift up with your breath and rotate your torso from the waist towards that leg. The toes are still facing straight up. Some people can rotate their toes out to the side, but we're going to leave them straight up for this stretch. And from here, you may have a great stretch right now. This may be a perfect, excellent stretch for you. If you have more room in your body, very much the same action we were just doing in half Hanuman. Long back, reaching all the way through the neck and the top of the head, and bringing the torso forward. And you can walk your hands forward. You can use your block here. You can reach your foot. The foot is a handy place. Not all of you will reach your foot. That's fine. You can put your hands on your thigh as well. Now you all are going to stay there and breathe. And I left anybody who didn't have that flexibility to get up and down hanging. So for you, we're going to come to the edge of the chair, stretch this front leg long, plant this leg strong, and do the same thing while holding onto the chair. Same stretch. Very available, and it avoids that hard work if you have very tender hips or knees of getting up and down from the ground. And those of you who are breathing into the first variation of Janusharsasana, in breath and lift yourself up. Fold the legs and give it a little wiggle before we go to the other side. You can wiggle your feet too. Shake out your feet. And then the other leg will bend in towards the groin, and the other leg and the opposite leg. For me, I started with the right long. The left leg will reach straight. Remember, you're going to keep that toe reaching up. You're going to lift up from the seat, rotate from the waist towards the front, and come down with a long back. Now feel this stretch for yourself. See if there's anything that hurts. If so, back out and adjust. What do you need to do for that not to hurt? Do you need to not come so far forward? What needs to be changed? Take care of yourself as you work through this. Sometimes you might find bringing this knee forward helps. Use the breath. Use that long breath. Keep the leg pressing into the floor. See if you can find some pleasure here. See if you can find some sense of release and ease and openness. Then let your in-breath lift you up. Again, take it out to Dandasana and let those knees wiggle. From here, let's come into Baddha Konasana. Put the soles of the feet together. Again, you can have I'm still up on my blankie here. Helps me keep a nice long back. Place your hands on your feet. If your knees are way high and it's uncomfortable, you can always prop your knees. If your knees are way high and it doesn't hurt, that's not a problem. We're just working towards gently relaxing the knees towards the floor. And Baddha Konasana is one of those poses that it depends on the anatomy of your hips. We don't want to change your hip anatomy. We want your hip anatomy to stay stable and wonderful. So if you're way up here and you've been way up here all your life, that's fine. We just want to look at the edges of it. We want to gently explore. We're not bothering the bones. We're just encouraging the muscles and the ligaments to loosen and release. Most of us are fine here. If you find you want to relax forward a little bit, you can also do that. See if you can relax forward from the hips, keeping the back long again, so that you find the stretch in the back of the hips. If you can do this stretch, for some people this isn't available, but if it does work for you, it will feel very much like in the same place as figure 4, the figure 4 stretch. So you want to keep the back as long as you can and make sure you're not taking that stretch in your lower back. And then with an in-breath, lift up and use your hands to bring those feet together, stretch those legs long and give them another wiggle. You might relax them from side to side. Let's see how we're doing here. We're going to come to the floor, relaxing, getting ready for Shavasana. We have time for one more stretch. I'd like to do another twist. So take your block and place it up between your knees. Let's make this a very stable stretch twist for the low back. And then you lift your knees, holding the block between them. Arms are out in a figure T, a T shape. Palms can be up or down. Let's relax the knees over to the right first. I like to step my hips just a little bit to the left before I fall to the right. And the higher you take your knees towards your arm, the more extreme the twist will be. So you can adjust this by having your knees lower or higher and play with it and see what feels right to you today. Many of you will find the stretch It's always so interesting, this big side twist, and you feel it up in the top of your shoulders. So if that happens, that's perfectly okay. That's just where the finish of the twist is, and that's where you feel it. So stay here for another 2 breaths, relaxing into it. Releasing. See if your breath can help you just release. Release. Now to come out, you lift your knees with a strong belly, and the hips come back to the ground before we get ready to go to the other side. So I scooch my hips for this side. I'm going to the left. I scooch my hips to the right just a wee bit before I lift my knees and allow them to fall to the side. And as with many things, you'll find it will be different on this side of your body. If you want to, if your neck and head are doing well, you can look away from your knees. And let your breath lift the knees up. And let's do one more core lock. You can do it either knees tabletopped or knees on the floor, but hands into the thighs, pressing away as you push the belly down, lengthening, tractioning that spine long. And we're going to come from here to Shavasana. You do have time to slip in one more pose if you want to. To ease the lower back, you can have your legs up on a stool or a chair or a couch, or your blanket rolled under your knees. Make sure you're warm enough. Our houses are cool usually, so you might want to put on another layer. It's easier to relax when you feel warm and cozy. And if you need something under your neck, a towel or a blanket or a little flat pillow, you can do that. Whatever works best for you. Begin to work your way into your Shavasana position. And you might want to take some long breaths here. Make sure you can tuck your shoulder blades under you flat on the ground, and encourage that same length we've been working with in the lower back through the sacral area. Let your legs fall open and the hands away from the body with the palms up to the sky. Check your jaw. See if your jaw is relaxed. If not, you can take it from side to side and in and out. You might want to sigh out a breath or two as you release into the floor. And begin to find your deep relaxation. You can let the room fade away. The noises around you become quieter. I am not this body, nor am I this mind or intellect. I am something divine and free of all limitations. I am ageless, deathless, strong, ever free, eternally happy and pure. I am not this body, nor am I this mind or intellect. I am something divine and free of all limitations. I am ageless, deathless, strong, ever free, eternally happy and pure. If your morning is free, and your day is open, and you'd like to stay in Shavasana longer, please mute me, turn off the device, and we'll see you all later. If you're ready to move on with your day, begin to deepen your breath and allow the world around you to come back into focus in all ways. And focus verbally, audibly, sensually, texturally. Feel the air around you and hear the noises of the world. Begin to move your body however it serves you to reawaken, to reorient towards upright and awake. When you're ready, roll to your right side and breathe there for at least a full breath before you join me in a seat. Thank you so much for being with me. I wish you a happy week, a week of Thanksgiving in our different and hopefully unique way of this year. Namaste. I'm going to stop the recording and you can all unmute yourselves if you have anything else to say. And we will see you next week. Thank you all for being here. So feel free to unmute if you wish to say anything.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome, Gwen.
I feel much better.
Do you? Okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Happy
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
See you next
Thank you.
Monday. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Stay safe.
You too.
Bye.
Enjoy yourself. Bye.
Thank you,
Happy
Mary.
Thanksgiving.
Welcome, Keith. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. I'll feel much better.
Good.
Great class.
Karen, thank you, Diane. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye, kids.
Bye-bye.